social workers, teachers, nurses, folks that they already have a strong relationship with to get that extra support that they need. So we have about 212 schools that we work with, and those all function sort of differently. So School Pantry is really an umbrella for the different ways that we work with schools. So some of those models are client choice, like Kristen talked about earlier. So folks are able to go in and shop like they would at a grocery store. Some of those programs operate like traditional backpack programs where food is sent home with families. And some kind of function a little bit of both in between. And really our ethos for the program is that our schools are the experts in their communities. They're the ones on the ground every day with families and students, and they really know what those needs are. So we allow schools to really take the lead in those programs, and we're there to support them with whatever they need to be successful. So over the past year, there have clearly been a lot of changes. Prior to COVID, we were very lucky to receive a very generous grant through Hannaford to expand our programs into Head Start pre-K programs. This was a really critical step for us because we know that food insecurity doesn't just start for students when they enter kindergarten or the K through 12 programs. We know that that need is there to support families throughout a child's life. And so being able to partner with Head Start was a really wonderful option for us. That program has grown really quickly, and a lot of that is due to the strength of those partners. They know their communities really well, and they're really set up very well to be excellent partners in our work. So we're very thankful for that expansion. A lot of our expansion this year also happened in the university and college system. So we have partners with UMA Bangor and University of Maine Orono. But this year we've had a big expansion with the community college system across Maine. So we know that food insecurity for college students is at an all-time high. A report in 2019 showed that about 40% of college students were at some point food insecure. And so this year, the president of Maine's community college system said that all Maine community colleges would have a school pantry partnership. And so as of now, of the 7 Maine community colleges, we have 6 on board, and we're working to onboard the last one. So that partnership has been really impactful and really allows us to now have a continuum of care from pre-K all the way up through secondary education in some communities. This year, we distributed 2.8 million pounds of food, which is a 155% increase in the food that we did this year. We also were able to work with 17,300 families across the state, which is again close to a 150% increase. Some of that is related to the changes that we saw due to COVID, but a lot of that is due to the strength and the changing nature of our partnerships. So to talk a little bit about COVID and what happened for us starting in March. As with many folks, we didn't know what it was going to look like when schools started to shut down in March. We weren't sure if our partners would be able to stay open, if they would be able to work with their communities safely, and we wanted to prioritize their needs as much as we could. As Kristen said about our traditional network, we were really wowed by the resiliency and the strength of our school network, on top of all of the things that teachers and social workers were managing, from learning how to use Zoom for the first time to working with families in new situations. They were able to manage operating school pantries at a 93% rate. So 93% of our partners stayed open from March through June to the end of the school year, with many of them continuing into the summer as well to offer really continued support to the families that needed it. It was not uncommon for us during this time to see sites that normally serve close to 100 families to all of a sudden be serving 400 families in their community. So schools really expanded, not just to serve more students, but also to serve more community members who were experiencing a strain. Lots of our sites pivoted to low touch models like Kristen talked about, so sending food home or working in a delivery setting to do drive-through distributions. A lot of our schools were also able to take advantage of the SFSB expansion that happened, which allowed students to come get lunch meals throughout the week. And a lot of those sites were able to deliver using school transportation. And so a lot of our sites said, you know, we're going to deliver these meals and these lunches anyway, let's go ahead and send some Good Shepherd food as well. And so they were really able to take advantage and really get creative in the ways that they worked. For a lot of our school sites as well, we saw them expand from just their traditional school. So let's say we were just working with the elementary school, all of a sudden the middle school, the high school, were all participating in programming as well. So a really huge expansion. Something that I think speaks really well to the expansion and to the strength and resiliency of our partners is some of the work that happened from March through this summer at Skowhegan Middle School and High School in Canaan Elementary. So to give you a little background, the folks up at Canaan and Skowhegan are up in Somerset County. Those were both really strong programs to begin with, but relatively small. On average, they served about 65 families a month put together. But when COVID hit and their schools began to shut down, they knew that there was going to be a high need for their students as well as for their community. And they decided to work together to try and figure out how to best serve their community. And so in a matter of a couple of weeks, they went from serving about 65 families a month to 700 families every 2 weeks. So a pretty amazing jump in terms of what they were doing and how they were operating. So Stephanie and Chelsea, working with that program, they said to themselves, well, we're already working with the schools. Let's also expand to the towns. So they worked with neighboring towns in Canaan, Norridge Walk, Smithfield, and Mercer to set up programming there as well, making sure that they were expanding not just to meet the needs of their students, but their community members as well. As you can see, they said, consistency and predictability were really scarce during the COVID-19 pandemic, or continue to be. But due to the safe manner, or due to Good Shepherd, they were able to distribute food regularly and safely. They were actually able to work with some folks at Pleasant River Lumber as well, who donated a truck and a driver to them to be able to do additional pickups. They worked with first responders, dispatchers, game wardens, EMS, all across their area to pack bags, and they used tons of volunteers to be able to get food out as well. They distributed toiletries, and they worked hard to meet the needs of all of the families across their area. So we're not only just thankful for their hard work and their commitment to their community, but their commitment to working together and going above and beyond to really meet that need. The thing that really sat with us after we were looking back on some of the amazing work that they've done is this quote, which said that we never had to turn a family away thanks to the assistance that Shepherd gave us. But we're so thankful for their partnership, because without those partners that are on the ground getting food into the hands of folks that need it, our food doesn't go anywhere. So really, it is our school partners that are doing the amazing work across our area. So to give you just a little more information on where we're headed, obviously we are back at school. This school year has been a start like no other. We work across the state, so we're seeing a huge difference in the way that all of our schools are returning. About 60% of those schools decided to open in a hybrid model. So a lot of schools are only have their students there 4 days a week, and then they usually have a flex day. Some schools have reopened in full, and then some are kind of doing a mix of those in between. So it's been really a challenge to sort of see what our schools are up to and what they're working with. But they're really working hard to make that work for them. Lots of our schools, because they have an extra day off in the middle, have decided to do their distributions on that day off so that they still have time to really spend some time with the folks who are coming to those programs, and to try and implement a little bit more of the choice and the relationship that was lost very early on in the pandemic. But right now, about 83% of our sites are ready and returned. They're ready to be open and they're distributing. We're working with the rest to make sure that they're up and running and have everything that they need. We know that the majority of the folks that we work with as site coordinators are social workers and teachers, and so they're managing and juggling a lot of new restrictions at their school sites, but they're handling it with a lot of grace and resilience. We know that we never know what's coming at this point, and so should schools need to close for whatever reason in the coming weeks, about 80% of our schools said that they would be ready to stay open and to keep distributing no matter what's whether their school was open or their school was closed. And so again, we're really thankful for the flexibility that those partners have and their commitment to programming. And we're working to make sure that they have what they need to keep that capacity up. This September, just to sort of speak to the rise in need that we've seen, as well as the expansion in our programming, we've already distributed double the pounds that we did by this time last September. So that's about 124,000 pounds that have gone out just this September alone to families in need. And so we can't thank our school partners enough, and we're so thankful for their work. So I guess we'll open it up to any questions that folks may have about the programming.
Any particular questions that came out of that? Or anything you'd like Aoife to expand on, feel free to speak up. I know for one, I was just amazed to hear some of those staggering numbers of the increase in the number of families that were served by the schools, being very committed to their students first, but recognizing that if there's ever a hungry child, there's clearly a family behind that child that also has that need. So I think these are some of our true heroes throughout all of this.
Definitely. Yeah, we couldn't do it without them and their hard work. And they've just been so creative in the ways that they've made things work. They've reached out to additional community partners to create partnerships with traditional pantries. So they've really worked hard to reach every family in their community that has a need. And we're so thankful for that.
Aoife, can you talk a little bit about the types of food that families receive through school pantry programs, and how much food per family, some of those pieces?
Sure, yeah. So as I said before, it does range depending on the school program that we work with, because schools are really able to tailor that program. But across the board, we do offer kind of a variety of food that schools are able to stock their pantries with. So some of those are shelf-stable products that are really going to be staples in a pantry. So things like pasta, things like canned items and vegetables. But I think the thing that our schools really love and what they're so excited to send home with their families are the wide variety of produce that we have. So I would say that produce makes up a pretty significant chunk of what goes out through our pantry programs. Fresh items, sometimes about 10 to 15 pounds per distribution going home with a family. So really a large variety of it. And we also are able to partner some of our schools with our farm partners, which I know is a really great partnership that our farmers love, and I know the students love, because it gives them an opportunity to learn a little bit about not just what they're eating, but where their food comes from and who's growing it and who's bringing it to them. So that can be a great enrichment part of the program as well. So really a wide variety of items, and schools are able to sort of set the menu themselves. So if they have culturally specific items that they want to source for families in their areas, or if they know that there's families in their area that have allergies or special dietary restrictions, they're really able to tailor it to those needs and really keep that at the forefront of what they're distributing.
Sandy, I'm going to put you on the spot if you could. Sandy is one of our very strong collaborators with the Harrison Food Bank. And I don't know if you have any stories that you might want to share in terms of what you saw in terms of needs, particularly with families with school-age children that may come through your pantry.
Well, a year ago, we were serving 300 to 350 families, and they come from 62 towns. People are driving up to an hour to get to us because we're in rural Maine. as soon as the pandemic hit, it jumped right to 500 families, and it's basically stayed right pretty steady at 500 families. One thing that we serve, yes, we do have school children, school age children, but we serve a lot of seniors. We have 20, because you all know that Maine is the highest amount of seniors per capita in the nation. And we have 20 senior citizen developments, low income, right in our area. So we serve a lot of those, and we've worked very hard to include them and make sure that we deliver food to them. And matter of fact, we're going to be putting a truck on going to schedule stops to all those. But a year ago, we were in a free shopping model. People would come in and they'd get a grocery basket, and signs were overhead just like a grocery store, and they'd go through and pick whatever they want. And then as soon as that happened, the COVID, we knew we had to go outside, and then the numbers started to escalate, and so we ended up with a refrigerated tractor trailer that we now own, and we've actually converted it to electric, but it's 45 feet long, and we have that absolutely packed every single week, and we go through it. It's just incredible the amount of people that we're helping, and that people, we have no problem getting food. I have to tell you that, because Good Shepherd's been great. We go to 8 Hannafords, 3 Shaws, 2 Walmarts. We have a lot of farmers that supply us in the summertime. So we've been very fortunate that we have had food to give out. I mean, there has been shortages, like you all know. First, it wasn't any meat. And then when the prices went up for meat, then all of a sudden we had plenty of meat to get out. So I would say that hasn't been a concern, really. It's been getting the food out there to the people that do need it. And like you say, the children, they're home. Historically, we've always found that in the summertime we go through less food, less people. With the COVID, it's been up, but I kept saying that we haven't seen the problem yet, like it's going to hit in the wintertime. As soon as the bills hit for the heating and the electric, you're going to see it. And that certainly was the way it was this past week. It was lined up right to the road all day long. And so we're just starting to see the real problem hit. And I don't